Hello and welcome to a webinar of the Turkey program of the Hellenic Foundation of European and Foreign Policy. My name is Yanis Grigoriadis. I'm an associate professor, Jamone Chair of the Department of Political Science at Bilkent University in Ankara, and I'm a head of the Turkey program at LIMF. I'm very happy to discuss today the publication of a very important book on Turkish politics by a good friend and colleague, Professor Istar Gözaydin, who is with us this afternoon. We're going to discuss her book, her main findings and key implications, together with two leading scholars in the field of religion and politics. These are Geoffrey Haynes, Emeritus Professor of Politics at London Metropolitan University, and Ahmet Erdi Öztürk, who is a reader in Politics and International Relations at London Metropolitan University. He's also a non-resident fellow at the Turkey program here at LIMF. The order of our discussion will be as follows. I'll first give the floor to Professor Haynes, who has to leave shortly before the end of the webinar. Then I will pass the floor to Professor Gözaydin. Professor Gözaydin is also affiliated with LIMF. She's also Professor of Law at İstinye University in Istanbul. I forgot to mention. Then Professor Öztürk is going to make his points. I will try to contribute to the discussion as well, because it's a topic that I feel very interested about. And then we can open the floor with discussions. We can listen to questions that the students are willing to contribute, or we can discuss questions that we may receive from our audience. So without further ado, I would like to give the floor to Professor Haynes. What do you think is the main contribution of this book?
Well, Yanis, thank you so much. Let me before I go into that, may I just preface my remarks by a few more personal remarks about the author of the book, who I've known for a long time and have admired greatly. I've known Ishtar since about 15 years, I think, although she may correct me on that. About 15 years, and we met as part of a mutual interest in religion and politics, and we've attended a lot of events together. She's very kindly contributed to edited volumes I've done. In other words, I know her work very well. And not only is she an immensely accomplished scholar, I hope she doesn't mind me saying, she's also an extremely nice person, one who I have a lot of time and fond regard for. My own interest in Turkey, it has been intermittent. I have written about Turkey, but not recently. I'm currently in Ghana in West Africa, where my current research interests are. So yeah, just to mention, actually, we have a very international setup: London, Athens, Istanbul, and Accra in Ghana. So, okay, well, her book, I was asked by the publisher to, well, I guess I asked by Ishtar via the publisher to write a blurb for the book, and I get asked, like we all do, to write blurbs quite frequently. Well, so I received the book, and given that Ishtar is one of the most accomplished scholars of religion and politics in Turkey and has been for a very long time, I was not in the least surprised with the book, because it represents an encyclopedic knowledge of the last couple of hundred years almost, actually, of the development of relations between the state and key religious actors in what's now Turkey, formerly the Ottoman Empire, of course. And as everyone listening, I think, will know, that's a very complex, convoluted, fragmented picture, which has changed dramatically over time. But Ishtar has managed to capture the essence of those changes in a remarkably effective and concise manner. So the book is in its own way a page turner. She develops an argument. She develops the structure of the argument early on and sticks to it, which is very good. She brings in a myriad of evidence, which helps to make her argument even stronger, of course. And she brings the picture right up to date. And for a lot of people interested in this topic of religion and politics in Turkey, probably the last quarter century have been quite pivotal in that, because, of course, there's been immense political changes and economic changes in Turkey over that time. And the relationship of religion and politics has been central to those changes, I think. So for me, the book represents not quite a lifetime's work, because she's got many years of good work in her still, of course, but it represents many decades of focused, accomplished, and dedicated research on a topic of profound importance. And I think the book should be read by anyone who's interested in this, in the wider issue of religion and politics in Turkey, because the person who's written it is a master of her craft, and I recommend that everyone reads it if they can. So thank you.
It's Yannis frozen.
This is one of the actually problems about online events. He's back actually. Yannis, could you please repeat what you try to say, because you just freezed a little bit?
Yep. Yeah, I was saying that studying religion and politics in Turkey has become increasingly important as a tool of studying not only Turkish domestic policy as well. It's also important to study as a tool to study Turkish foreign policy in many ways. So many of the initiatives that the Turkish government has taken in the last decade or so in regions like Africa or the Middle East and beyond can be also understood in light of the transformations of the relationship between religion and politics in Turkey. I wouldn't like to take more of the time. I would like to give the floor to the author. Ishtar would like to comment on Jeff's points and also make her own introduction about what makes this book important and interesting to read. So Ishtar, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Yannis. And Jeff, thank you for your wonderful words. Actually, we know each other more than 15 years. It's almost 20 years, if I'm not mistaken. I tried to offer an overview of Turkey's history from the modernization processes of the early 19th century, as Jeff said, until present times under the Justice and Development Party. I've focused on the relationships between religion, politics, and society, as the title indicates. Yes, Jeff is very much, he's very right. I've been working over 3 decades on politics and religion in Turkey, or in general, actually. And not only, in this book, I haven't just worked on politics and religion, but also I tried to put the society inside the bracket as well. What I did was to examine the complex relations between society, religion, laïcité. I'll try to explain what I mean by it a little bit later. State identity, and the reflections in state power and daily life. So, it is a critical reading of Turkey's history. So what I did was to challenge, I tried to challenge the master narrative of the Turkish modern history, especially the earlier academics working on the Ottoman 19th century appear to have a tendency to minimize the importance of religion for both the state and the society. However, they prefer to take modernization process as the aspiration for westernization and secularization. What I tried to do was to go beyond it, considering that Turkey's Muslim society has religion not only as a faith, but also as a part of their personal and social identity. So, as I said, the book is the outcome of research and politics and religion that has been going on for over 30 years. All through those years, I've been conducting in-depth interviews with with the leading religious authorities in Turkey. Actually, I started doing that in 1987. And I've included all the presidents of the Diyanet, and then I just had interviews with other groups like the spokespersons of non-Muslim communities, spiritual leaders of various other Islamic groups, etc. Actually, I've been having the chance of being in international courts as an expert in these matters. I gave the expert opinion in various judicial and other contexts. For example, I submitted a statement before the European Court of Human Rights, and that was part of my, I've tried to reflect all those in the book. So that's part of the methodology. It consists 3 levels of analysis, actually, international, state, and individual. I tried to include all 3. The case study methodology that I used enabled me to test theories by relying on within case analysis. I mean, I've with all the evidences, I've tried to include these in the book. So what I did was, first of all, try to put different historiographies, try to display different historiographies of the modernization processes in Turkey. And then I tried to scrutinize the Republic of Turkey as a project of modernity. There, I used 2 different terms, laiklik and secularism. I preferred to use the word laiklik instead of similar but still different counterpart in French laïcité. Laiklik is the unique interpretation and practice of the Republic of Turkey regarding religion and state relations. So I've tried to underline it and try to make the difference with secularity or secularism, which is actually implies the separation of state and religion in its context. So what I did was to work on the Diyanet, which is my main focus usually, the institution, institution that provides religious services in Turkey. And then I worked on different interpretations of Islam, like the Alevi Islam. Actually, in Turkey, it has always been, the frame has always been Sunni reference. So different interpretations of Islam, especially, as I said, Alevism, has been excluded. I tried to put the discriminations and the problems with it all through the book. By the way, the book consists of 6 different eras, and each and every of them, I tried to display the ongoing instances with the different interpretations of Islam, Diyanet, non-Muslim identities, minorities, sorry, gender issues, and in general, I worked on nationalism and Islam. I mean, the founders of the Republic of Turkey envisioned nationalism as the ideology on which the modern nation state was built. So it was the cement of a secular and modern political structure for them. I tried to work on that concept all through the history. And last but not the least, I worked on the role of religion in international affairs. Actually, Jeff has a recent publication which is almost which will be published very soon on religion and the role of religion in international affairs. I'm so proud to be contributing on that in the context of Turkey. I worked on it in the book as well. So overall, that's what I can say about the book. If there happens to be any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. Thank you, Yannis.
Thank you very much, Istar. This is very helpful and very, very interesting. There are many issues that we need to discuss in detail. I'm not sure that everybody in our audience understands what Diyanet is and has done, so we may have to provide some deeper clarifications on this. But I would like to give the floor now to Erdi, who's going to make his own introductory comments, and then we can come back with questions and discussions.
Thank you so much, Yannis. First of all, let me explain, I can't look directly to the camera because right now we are in the Religion and International Relations Masterclass in London Metropolitan University. My students are with us actually, and we passed a very glorious Turkey week. We read a lot about Ishtar's work, so I see that it is an opportunity for them in many ways. But before starting my remarks, for my students, Ishtar and Jeff talked about their long-lasting relations, friendship, collegiality, but also this is quite a unique opportunity for me, and I think it's quite a unique book event. Not only we are here for my students, but at the same time, I met Ishtar around 13 years ago when I was about a little bit of a toddler, and then thanks to Ishtar, I met with Jeff to come here to London Metropolitan University to be a master's student. And then throughout my academic career, I followed the footsteps of Ishtar and I replicated some of her works and produced mine. And at the end of the day, after Professor Haynes' retirement, I occupied his room in here and gave his lectures as a professor in London Metropolitan University. And on top of that, among the audiences, my PhD supervisor, Professor Samim Akgönül, is with us from Strasbourg University. So in this book event, I feel myself as a toddler, as a student, as a colleague, and as a professor. So I have many hats, and I don't know which hats that I'm gonna use for. But the first thing is that in front of my students, at the same time, I am the series editor of the Edinburgh Studies on Modern Turkey. So I'm not only in here for one of the commentator of this book, but also I know the production period of this book. And for me, this book is exactly the book that I would like to see in my series, because this book is not only one of the magnum opus of Professor Gözaydin, but also this book is perfectly suitable for the students who is quite standing quite abroad than Turkey. Anyone who would like to scrutinize the role of religion and politics and international relations can scrutinize that book, even though that book is scrutinizing the case of Turkey, exploring the historical surveys of Turkey. It is very important to understand some of the fundamental concepts, some of the fundamental and complicated relations, such as the relations between modernity, religion, diversity, different types of separation between religion and state. This is a book for Turkey studies students and early career scholars, because Ishtar mentioned that she started to work on that topic in 1987 when I was 1 year old. Anyway, but this means that as a female scholar, he managed to enter the halls of the religious fields and trying to establish different level of connections, relations with the religious individuals in Turkey. And also she managed to survive in the field throughout the dramatic transformation of Turkish political life, which has a direct impact on the Turkish academic life as well. So this is also an important for the researchers to explain us how to scrutinize fieldwork research, how you shouldn't be an armed scholar chair. And also it is important for the scholars generally, because Turkey is among one of the NATO members, one of the G20 countries. Geopolitically, geostrategically, it is an important and a crucial country. Despite of the authoritarianism in Turkey, Turkey is also still a fascinating country. So if you would like to understand Turkey from a religious angle, this is the book that you have to read. I mean, in this book, I found a couple of things quite important. The first thing is that I've been observing these issues from my students. This is a brilliant classroom in here. They're trying to put the Turkey in one basket, but the diversity angle of this book can also explain us it is not very possible to define Turkey with a couple of words. Yes, there is a religious part of Turkey. There is a secular part of Turkey. There is a conflict and the cooperation between these two parts. And this conflict and cooperation can easily tell us the complicated transformation of the Turkish political life. So this is also an important book for us. The other thing is that majority of the books has been starting to understand, to explain Turkey from 1923, but without understanding the concept, the relations, the modernization in late Ottoman Empire periods, even though in terms of the state mentality and the state structure, there is quite a significant differences between these two periods. This is important for us to understand the late Ottoman Empire period. That is why the first chapter after the theory and the structure of the book is devoted into this period. The other thing is that, generally speaking, from outside of Turkey, experts, quote unquote, has been trying to explain Turkey. They think that the role of Islam has just come up to our agenda during the Justice and Development Party period. No, no, no. This book is underlying that how this no is big with capital letters, because to understand the Justice and Development Party's evaluation, it is essential for us to understand in 1980s. To understand the 1980s, it is essential for us to understand what happened in 1960s. To understand the conflict between 1950s and 1960s, it is very important for us to learn what happened in the early Republican period in terms of religion and politics. So in this regard, I think this is a book that you can start reading from page 1 to page 288, but also it is a book that you can read it from the other side around to understand stuff. So in these circumstances, I think there is only one missing part about this book. This is not Ishtar's fault. This is not anyone's fault. Obviously, this is not the publisher's fault. They don't have any faults. Publishers are the best about this book. But the problem is that Ishtar's conclusion is ending with the May 2023 presidential election. But the story still continuing. And even though this book has been trying to explain all the Turkey's political history via focusing on religion, I think it is important for us to scrutinize many more day by day, because as of today, we have been talking about a new Kurdish opening process, and the head of the Nationalist Party around a week ago, not directly but indirectly, mentioned that the religious commonality between the Kurds and the Turks can solve this problem, isn't it? Really, is that easy? Or we can put under the same basket of the most of the Sunni like Islamic communities into the same basket. So what happened to the Gülen movement? What happened to the Furkan Foundation? So in every single day, I think this is the first edition of the book. I hope if it will not be a missing study, it may continue. And I don't know whether Ishtar will be willing to continue for the next volume, but I think the students of the Turkish studies, student of the religion and politics, student of the Middle East and North Africa should continue this book. Thank you so much for giving me and my students this opportunity. And I'm very much sure that they will have great questions for both Yannis, Ishtar, and Jeff. Thanks a lot for the opportunity. And Ishtar, thank you so much for this book to share with us. And it is important because with these books, we can build our knowledge. We can delete our big question marks in our mind. Thanks a lot.
By the way, thank you very, very much, Erdi.
Thank you very much, Erdi, for your comments. I would like to follow up with a number of points. I agree that the book makes a very important contribution in understanding this dynamic relationship between religion and politics in Turkey throughout the 20th century. So it's not just about trying to explain how political Islam in Turkey emerged dominant in the last 20, 25 years. It's very important to understand how state-society relations develop and what are the economic, social, and intellectual circumstances that allowed for this emergence. But maybe to understand this even better, I would like to give Ishtar the opportunity to explain what she briefly said in her introductory remarks. You said that laiklik is different from laicite and is different from secularism. How so? I mean, what is that makes the Turkish experience of laicite different from the French experience, so that we need a new term for that?
First of all, I mean, these concepts aren't mathematical concepts. They have their connotations in the social, historical, cultural points. So, I mean, yes, we're using similar concepts. These are all the concepts that the political authorities actually, or the political philosophers have found in order to deal with with modernity and its rivalry with religion. So, in order to handle these relations, all these laicite, laiklik, secularism have emerged. However, certainly there are very many differences in the concepts which they are used in which countries they are used. As I said in the book, I use the word laiklik to cover the state's control of religion as opposed to secularism, which implies the separation of state and religion. Here, I mean, okay, United States of America may be regarded as the first modern republic that has ever been established. So its relations in the context of religion is somehow different than the ones in Europe. If we bring to mind that the social body is predominantly the ones that have migrated from Europe, leaving all those religious wars behind, it's very understandable that they've established the concept secularism, which provides not to do anything for religion or against religion, but try to be as neutral as possible for the state authorities, or for, I mean, especially, for example, the Supreme Court has a wonderful decision for that. It says the state, the decisions of the state shouldn't be pro or against religion and should remain as neutral as it is, as possible. So these are not easy concepts to handle with. That's not the case with. That's not the case in Europe. France, I mean, in Europe, as we all know, the historical constructions, political constructions empires, kingdoms, etc., have been evolved into modern ones in time. Exactly not the same time, but in different times, in their own paths, in their own understanding. So, for example, even though France had chosen laïcité as its principle, obviously the shadow of the church has always been there, especially the Catholic Church, if not the Protestant as well. Imagine France has been a realm that all those wars have taken part of. So, for example, Benedict Anderson's wonderful book on the book entitled Imagined Communities on Nationalism mentions that if we don't have a lobotomy about some facts, it's impossible to become a nation. For example, France is part of it. Think of the massacre of Saint Barthélemy. Unfortunately, that happens all over the world, especially the old constructions trying to transfer into modern ones. Turkey has been a part of it as well, but since the political culture and political history have been different in France and Turkey, even though they use a similar word, laïcité or laïclik, they have different understandings in its use. In Turkey, laïcité, laïclik, what they use, laïclik, doesn't necessarily mean that there is an absolute difference between, an absolute distance between the state and religion, not at all, but the references, especially the legal references of the state not to be religious is the understanding, actually. So it may seem to be a paradox, but in order to deal with religion, the founders of the Republic of Turkey establish a institutional body, administrative body actually, called Presidency of Religious Affairs. In Turkish, it's Diyanet İşleri Başkanlığı, or in short, the Diyanet. It's to execute services regarding Islamic faith and practice, but it's not the only thing. I mean, if it was just the services to, for example, protect the mosque, etc., it could have been much more innocent. However, it has one more duty. It's to enlighten society about religion. So to enlighten, I mean, when you say, when you mention a duty like enlighten the society, you need references. And those references happen to be actually in the Sunni, actually not only Sunni, but Hanefi understanding of Islam, which has always been the preference of the state in Ottoman times, and it just has a continuity in the Republican times as well. So when we mention laïcité, or in Turkish context, we have a administrative unit which actually claims to be laïc. It seems, I know, for somebody who's not very much knowledgeable about Turkish politics, may seem to be very weird, but it's the way to actually, it has always been from the time it was established, which is 1924, to a certain time, the beginning of 2000, it has always been a unit, administrative body to control religion. Then it drastically changes. Now it's much more the use. But it has always. I should mention one thing. It has always been a ideological tool for the state from 20s till 2000s, in order to work in the understanding that they have in regarding religion and state. Then comes the period after 2000s. It becomes once again a tool for both social engineering and political engineering, but in a different context, because this time the governments that use it happen to be with a different understanding for religion and state, and then it becomes once again the ideological tool, but 180% different. So religion has become a very important tool for AKP governments, domestically and internationally. Diyanet is a part of it in both realms, both in domestic policies and internationally. It's a very important tool for has been a very important tool for the AKP governments. I hope this explanation is sufficient. I can go on and on and on, but I don't want to just take all the time. Please, if you have other, was I able to answer your question, Yanis?
No. Thank you very much.
You're frozen once again, my
dear. For the
dear.
benefit. Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. I can make a couple of more points in hope of clarifying the issue even more. It's important to state that Diyanet is also responsible for the mosques outside Turkey. So it has this extraterritorial activity. So all the mosques that are established in areas where Turkish diaspora communities are based are mostly run by Diyanet, and this has become a very important parameter in Turkey's relations with the countries where these immigrants live. And of course, it's also important about European Islam, right? Because like this presence means that Diyanet has a lot of influence in Islamic developments within Europe and beyond the borders of Europe. But let me also clarify something else. I think you raised very well this paradoxical situation of like whereby the state wants to claim that it doesn't have any relationship with religion, but in fact it wants to control religion as well, right? So Diyanet becomes the instrument for this state control, but we can identify several phases in Republican Turkish history. I would argue, I don't know whether you agree, that in the first years, Kemal Atatürk really meant to use Diyanet as an instrument to control and reduce the role of religion in Turkish society. So it was an important instrument in trying to secularize Turkish society top down.
Indeed.
Later, and I'm talking about before 1945 and before Menderes, before the transition to multi-party politics and the emergence of Islam as a very important tool in Turkish political debates and Turkish political communication. Then we have the Turkish Islamic synthesis, right? We have Menderes, of course, who brings Islam to the forefront and tries to instrumentalize Islam for his own political interests. And then we have the Diyanet playing a new role against the threat of the Kurdish or the socialist sort of challenge. The Turkish society in the 70s is facing a double sort of challenge, in the sense that Kurdish nationalism is emerging. There's increasing Kurdish self-awareness in a big part of the Turkish population. Of course, the left-wing movements are particularly strong. So a lot of the Kemalists intellectuals and people within the Turkish military too recognize that this may be happening because of weakening the Islamic bonds in the society. So in that respect, reintroducing Islam through the DNet operations is meant to become an instrument of consolidating Turkish national identity against these perceived threats. But still, the idea is not to let political Islam take over everything. They think that they can control this process. But things work otherwise.
Yannis, you're frozen once again.
From here, I'll take the role of the moderation as the other LMF stuff. Yeah, Yannis, you froze again, so for a long while.
Yes. So can you hear me now?
Yes,
we can.
Yes, I was saying that the architects of Turkish Islamic synthesis didn't achieve what they had thought or hoped to achieve through this manipulation of Islam in Turkish politics. I don't want to go longer on that. I would like to give the floor to Erdi and the students who hopefully have a lot of questions.
We are here a bunch of crowds, an eager crowd to ask some questions to Professor Gözaydin. We really appreciate your expert discussion, but I'm sure they had some questions. And if you don't mind, I will give the floor to them for the question, because it is a rare moment for them and for me as well to see the top name about Diyanet and religion in Turkey. And if you don't mind, I'll give the floors to them for their questions. So anyone, guys? Yeah. You have to speak the mic and introduce yourself first.
My name is Dylan Angelo Gurkis. My question is, what is the symbolic and political role of the Hagia Sophia in relation to domestic Turkish society, but also their contemporary diplomatic relationship with Christendom, more specifically the Orthodox East?
Thank you so much. I told them, like, Elyamap is a Greek originated, so Ishtar is in Istanbul, we are in London, so they can smell the floor very well and find the correct question. Thanks, Kevin.
Well, actually, Hagia Sophia is World Heritage. I mean, it's one of the most wonderful constructions in the world, in the human history. Apparently, all the faith groups and the secular bodies try to sort of have it under their names. And that's part of the populistic policies. I mean, the Turkish, AKP government preferred to convert it into a mosque after being used as a museum for a very, very long time. In my belief, as a part of their populist policies. It has been, the funny thing is, perhaps I shouldn't use the word funny, but it has been currently, it has been a center of attraction for so many people all over the world, so many tourists and etc. And since they apparently don't want to be parted from that wonderful income, it's once again become partially a place of visiting by paying amount in order to enter. So even though it seems, and even though especially in the opening ceremony there has been all those Islamic connotated actions of the head of the Diyanet, etc., it is still partially used as a mosque, whereas mostly it's a place of visiting, touristic visiting for all over the for the crowds all over the world. So it's in my opinion, it's just a show off as a part of a populistic policy.
If I may follow up on this, because maybe it's important to discuss this from the Greek-Turkish perspective point of view. Of course, it is clear that for the Greek audience and for the Christian audience, this whole maneuvering of the Turkish government appeared to be hurting and insulting. And there is significant concern also about another monument, which is the Hora monastery, right, the Karia, which is very important from the cultural and the architectural and the artistic point of view. And it's not as an important Islamic monument, an Ottoman monument, as Hagia Sophia was, which was converted by Mehmed the Conqueror himself, right? And yet we had a conversion of that monument into a mosque in recent time. What is important here to understand is that there is a significant dimension of this confrontation between the secularists or the Ataturkists and the Islamists, because Kemal Atatürk decided to convert Hagia Sophia from a mosque to a museum, recognizing its global heritage status and wishing that Turkey joins this club of like-minded countries about the protection of global heritage, right? This was something that a lot of Islamists perceived as a defeat. There is an Islamic scholar called Necip Fazıl Kısakürek who wrote a lot of pieces, like prose and poems and essays on how wrong this decision was and how harmful this decision was for Turkish political Islam. And I think this is the basis upon which the Turkish government decided recently to introduce another front in the fights and the confrontation between Islamists and secularists in Turkey, with converting again the Hagia Sophia Museum into a mosque, hoping that this would help them consolidate their Islamic political base against the harsh realities of the economic situation in the country and the disappointments that their voters were facing in other aspects of domestic and foreign policy. So it is important to understand that dimension in order to explain why this conversion happened and under what circumstances it did.
Can I add one thing, if possible, about this stuff?
Of course.
I mean, this Hagia Sophia issue is a significant example, is that how religion can be used as a multi-dimensional tool. Look, think about that. Like Erdogan as a political actor in this particular issue used his stick as an expert snooker player, touching with one ball and then using all the sides of the pool table and touching the others, consolidating his supporters, creating an international issue with Greece and beyond, touching the national heritage, so on and so forth. So if the religion has been using in one socio-political issue, you should always think about the different angles at the same time. So it's not very possible to read in a one-dimensional. So this is a good example for us. We have a couple of more questions in the classroom. Is that possible to shoot? All right.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, my name is Richard Semitego. I'm so glad to see the lady professor on the stage. We really need more women like you. You are a role model. Yes. So my question, Turkey being a secular state, and what I heard today is more of Islam being in control. Do we see a future where Turkey is going to be more returning to Islamic state, or strengthening being a secular state, being turning into a strong secular state, or returning to Islamic state? Because as a secular state, I think it should be more of a free country, but I think the religion is playing a bigger role at the moment.
Actually, when AKP came to power back in 2002, preferred to introduce itself as a conservative democratic party, political party. So until, almost for 10 years, that went on. But then started other policies which actually showed that the party was much more pro-Islamic than conservative democratic. Democratic part has not been there, especially after 2007, and then that just escalated to in 2012, 13, etc. Especially after the Gezi events, which was very interesting social movement. The party, especially Erdogan, became much more openly pro religious values. We can not only consider this in terms of the relations between state, society, and religion, but also, for example, concepts like more family values, value-oriented education, etc. That has been a part of the social construction that they preferred to do. But despite that, Turkey is first of all, Turkey is a conservative country. It has always been, and probably the problems of the early Republican period has been that all those religious sensitivities have not been observed too much. Actually, there were quite many things that sort of irritated the people with religious Islamic sensitivities. Some of them rightly so. So the problem is, yes, the governments try to construct the societies that they have in their imaginations. That's what the early Republican tried to do, and that's what the AKP governments tried to do as well. Actually, their means, their use of institutions like the Diyanet are very much similar. However, even though the country is conservative in very many senses, still it has other qualities as well. And that makes me believe that with all the checks and balances, the Turkish community, despite the policies of the governments, will remain to be earthly. I wouldn't call it secular, but very much down to earth in a way. Certainly the practice of observance of religion will be there, but not to an extent that the references will convert into religious ones. Would that answer your question?
Thank you very much, Istar. Erdi, are there any other questions from your students?
Erdi, your voice is not heard.
You're muted. You're muted.
I'm using my assistant for that. Sorry. If we have time, we have 3 tiny questions. I promise you, it's gonna be tiny.
Hello. My name is Laurine Duquesne. So previously, you talking about the difference between laïcité and laïcité, but I would like to know what parallels can be made between the management of religious practices under laïcité and the French implementation of laïcité.
The differences of the countries and their historical facts actually, I mean, and the difference of the religions create those differences. Let me put it this way. Islam is an understanding that the state and the faith happens to be much more intervened, and it has never been changed in the course of time. Whereas, as we all know, in the process of modernity, the references are in the European and the then, I mean, it starts in Europe and then just scatters to all over the world. The references partially convert into human rationality instead of the religious ones. So when we talk about modern states like France, especially after the French Revolution, there's a huge resistance, not to accept the religious authorities. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean the brains of the French Revolution were not believers. They were. Almost all of them were very sincere believers, but they didn't want the clergy in the political arena. So that made them produce other means in order to run the political structure, political body, that is the state. Whereas in Turkey, as a late joiner to the modernization process, has chosen to use a body, a political, an administrative institution like Diyanet in order to produce the religious knowledge that would create the wanted religiously sensitive citizens. So these were the desired citizens by the state of the time, which was the early republic. They created their own wanted or preferred religious citizens with the knowledge, with the religious knowledge that their Diyanet has produced. So there are so many different cultural and historical and political differences that makes the two concepts apart. Actually, there are quite a many books that discuss the issue, so I don't want to get much more in detail to use the time more efficiently. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Istar. That was very, very informative.
Hi, hello. My name's Kevin, Kevin Bangi. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, good. My question is, you talked about researching 6 errors in the book. I wanted to know which error did you find the most difficult, and how did you tackle researching that error? Because I know you have a lot of information, and trying to list it down must have been difficult. Please explain how you managed.
Thank you for this wonderful question. It is a very interesting question. Actually, I haven't thought about it, but when I consider the question, probably the very latest period. I mean, I tried, if you examine the book, I tried to sort of scrutinize each and every era with certain concepts. For example, in each and every era, I just focused on the institution that we've been mentioning, Diyanet, and then political. First, I'll start with the political story, a political narration of that period, and then go into subdivisions like the what Diyanet does at that period, what Islamic Sunni Islamic groups exist in that particular period, what Alevi, other different interpretations of Islam happen to face in that period. So, and non-minorities for sure. Not to forget the gendered issues. I take each and every of them. Probably the most difficult one has been the last period because it's still going on. And the others are, you're doing a post factum analysis. I mean, you can, and you have all sorts of devices, all sorts of sources in order to work on it. However, the history is going on as we go on. So it's so difficult to, I mean, to make predictions and I mean, I try not to be certain about anything. I mean, critical approach is my approach, and I try to question myself, first of all, in every step that I take. But when you're living in something, in one era, it's not that easy to make an analysis. So I would say the last last 20 years is the most difficult part.
Can I add one thing for all of the audiences? And also, I mean, Ishtar is currently in Istanbul, so I don't know whether it is quite easy for her to underline that stuff. But scrutinizing or writing about an authoritarian regime under an authoritarian, writing an authoritarian regime while you are living in the territories of an authoritarian regime is not very easy. So this is also a very brave chapter. This is that I would like to, I mean, it would be quite easy for me to write and speak from London, but from the heart of Istanbul, it is not quite easy. That I would like to underline one thing about the researchers' positionality stuff. Last question, trust me, last question, and then we will get rid of our troops for this occupation.
Hi, my name is Mohammed, and I would like to extend my sincere thanks to Professor Ishtar for her hard work and dedication that went into this remarkable book, which spans impressive 215 years. I believe it will serve as an invaluable reference for the future academic studies on the intersection of religion and politics, society in modern Turkey. I got two questions here, and my first question is, what is the importance of the year 1808 as the starting point of this book? Why was this period chosen? And my second question is, what do you believe are the most significant factors contributing to the marginalization of Alevi Islam in Turkey despite constitutional provisions for equality? Thank you.
Thank you for the questions. 1808 is the time that one of the most important figures in Ottoman history, Mahmud II, has been crowned. That year, I mean, he's in my opinion, is the person who starts, although the modernization process actually starts much earlier with the military technologies, etc. He's the one that starts the process in a much effective manner. So that's why I took 1808 as my beginning point. The second question, would you please remind me the second question?
Yeah, it's about the Alevi Islam.
Alevi Islam. Okay. The modern, yeah. Unfortunately, Alevi Islam is one of the faiths groups in Turkey that has been discriminated, that has been very much, has faced very many atrocities all through the history. It's not easy to integrate religion in another way and try to continue it all through the history, especially after the rural communities that had Alevi faith eventually migrated into metropolitan cities. It has always been a problem for them to have a place of prayer. They have a place of prayer different than church. It's called cemevi. It's the gathering place. And cemevis, unfortunately, still, despite the international court decisions, the decision of the European Court of Human Rights, still, cemevis are not considered to be a place of prayer in the eyes of the Turkish authorities, which is very, very problematic and absolutely, I consider it to be not accordance with the constitution, with the freedoms and all the provisions of the legal system as provided. So we're talking about, the problem is the Alevi citizens are not considered to be equal citizens in the sense of their faiths in the eyes of the Turkish authorities because of the preference of the Sunni understanding, even though they claim to be secular. So that still goes on since the 16th century. All those clashes have historical backgrounds, but I believe, I hope, I work for the each and every faith group has the ability to define their own places of prayer, their own understanding of rituals, their own practices of rituals in a equal manner. Unfortunately, this isn't the case still in Turkey.
Thank you very much, Ishtar. Are there any other questions from students?
We would we are trying to be kind, and we would like to floor the audiences from online. So otherwise, we can easily occupy the section, but the floor is yours.
No, but we're also reaching the end of our allocated time, so we have time for another question, if you have.
No, actually, it's not a question, but one more thing. Because at the very beginning of my part, actually, I mentioned that this is not only this event is not only an opportunity for us in this part of the room to listen about Turkey, to talk about Turkey, but at the same time, it is an lively discussion to an author. And we talked about the research period. I think Kevin's question was brilliant about which part is the difficult, but also it is important, the inspiration, the environment, the author has been succeeded that book. Ishtar mentioned about one book, Benedict Anderson's Imagine Communities. This book also dedicated Ishtar's late husband, İskender Savaşır. He was the Turkish translator of the Benedict Anderson's Imagine Communities at the same time, if I'm not mistaken, right, Ishtar? So as you can see, we talked about the prices of the books. How expensive is that? You can see the Ishtar's background. I don't know, this is the only tiny part of her house. The house is full of books. So if you would like to be the professor, if you would like to be something, first you need to have an environment full of inspiration, including your life partner, including your friends, your colleagues, likewise Yannis, Gregoradis, so on and so forth. And also you have to read. This is another must. And I think this is an example, a lively example, how you can produce. Without reading, I mean, with Wikipedia, with 10 resources for your assignment, no, guys, sorry for that. One more, we have one more question if we have time. Is it yes?
Yes, you can
right.
Go ahead and then we'll conclude.
Sorry, I just wanted to know, I heard about Shia Sunni influence. Does other religious groups like Christianity have any influence?
That's I mean, the answer is a very, very long one for that. Please do read the book. All through the book, there are answers for that. The problem is, I mean, in terms of modernity, certainly nationalism is very important, and the secular state is an important part of the project. However, as Yannis has provided in his wonderful book, nationalism and religion goes hand in hand in Turkey as well as in Greece. So there is a huge, for example, let me just, I've used as a source, Yannis's wonderful book, wonderful sources quite a many times, intensively, but let me just underline that in the 20s, 30s, lots of groups migrate to Turkey, and they seek for naturalization, and the Turkish citizenship is given to all groups that have the Islamic faith. However, there's one group called the Gagos Turks. They are, in terms of ethnicity, they're very much Turkish. I have problems with these concepts, but I'm trying to to simplify it. But they're not accepted as Turkish citizens because they have Christian faith. So religion has always been the cement, not only in times of, not only with Turkish Kurdish issues, but always a cement, even though in the times that religion has been sort of a rival to the modern state. So there has been a huge Turkification policies in terms of politics, social relations, and especially in terms of economic means, that the groups that used to be in the Ottoman Empire, unfortunately, do not exist in numbers as it used to be at all. Yes, they are somehow protected under the international protection of Lausanne Treaty, but these are just limited groups. Besides these, there are several groups that are not legally protected and which have very many issues. So if you just glance through the book, you'll be finding all the answers to each and every almost community with it, as much as one can touch in this rather short context, but nevertheless, there are the answers, I believe.
Thank you very much, Ishtar. This brings us to the end of our webinar. I would like to thank the participants, Professor Jeffrey Haynes, Professor Erdi Öztürk. I would like to thank very much Professor Öztürk's students for their participation.
We would like to thank you as well for hosting all of us.
And first and foremost, of course, I'd like to thank Istar, Professor Istar Gözaydin, for her presence and for her wonderful presentation of her latest book. Let me repeat the title, Religion, Politics and Society in Modern Turkey, 1808-2023. It's just been published by Edinburgh University Press. I do think that this discussion has raised interest in the very important topic of religion and politics in Turkey, and will also convince some of our audience to buy the book and study it and sort of try to think about a very important dimension that has shaped Turkish politics for more than 2 centuries, as the book contends. So thank you very much. I would like to thank our audience very well as well for their presence. And I hope to see you soon in another event of the Turkey program, another webinar. Thank you so much.
Yanis, I would love to once again thank Eliamep to give me this opportunity to talk about the book. I'm so glad to be able to talk about the book with Jeff, you, and his students. I hope we can just have other opportunities in coming times.
Absolutely, it was our greatest pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.